Welcome to Cooking with the Connection. I'm Carolyn, and this week we're having Nicaragua edition. We're going to make two recipes from Nicaragua, bajos and buñuelos. Let's get started. So, bajo is usually made with brisket. So, we're going to cut it up into more manageable pieces. We're going to salt them, and the salt will really help to break down some of the connective tissue. So you want to salt them really, really generously. We're going to add some juices later that will also help to break it down, and some of the salt will dissolve in there, and you can always rinse it later as well. So we're going to salt them and then add some freshly ground black pepper. I'm grinding mine in a mortar and pestle. If you have a pepper grinder, that's great. Or just regular pepper. Just make sure you get some pepper in there. So a couple really generous pinches are going to go into our meat for flavor. And then we're also going to smash some garlic. And you just take the side of your knife, smash it, and there you go, smashed garlic. Super simple. And we're going to use one large onion. You can see I've got one huge onion and one kind of normal onion. So I'm going to go with the large one. And we're going to cut off the end and peel it. And then we're going to cut it up. So peel off all of that papery skin on the outside and then cut it in half and cut off the root end. When you cut off the root end, it really will cause you to tear up a little bit more, and we're going to cut it kind of across where we normally would. So it's going to cause a few more tears, but it's well worth it. It keeps the onion from breaking down too much when we cook it. So we're going to put both halves of the onion in there. And the salt is going to interact with the onion and bring some of that juice out. And the enzymes from the onion help to break down the meat as well. So you get super, super tender meat. And now we're going to cut our citrus in half. So we're going to use half oranges and half limes. And normally this would be sour orange juice or bitter orange juice, but we don't have bitter oranges in Buffalo. So half lime juice and half orange juice is a good substitute. So you're going to squeeze those or ream those out and get as much of that. You're going to want about a cup for about 2 pounds of meat or 2 cups for 4 pounds of meat, etc. And it should be about half lime juice and half orange juice. So ream those and mix those together. And then we're going to stir it up and give it a taste. Just make sure that it's sour. And if it's not, add more lime juice and then pour it over our meat. And we're going to move our meat around a little bit, making sure to keep those onions on top. Just make sure that all the surfaces are kind of coated with the juice. And the onions on top will help to, like I said, bring out some of those enzymes that help to break down the meat. We're going to cover this and put this in the refrigerator for 18 hours to marinate. And that will almost cook the meat. You'll see when we look at it later. So let's start with our vegetables that are going to steam with this now that it's been 18 hours. You can see me cutting a yuca, or in Nicaragua they call it cassava. And it's a hard root vegetable similar to a turnip or a rutabaga. And it's got like a thick waxy coating on the outside and its skin. And none of that is really good eats. So you want to use a knife or a good vegetable peeler to peel that and get rid of it. And then we're going to slice up some tomatoes and slice up some green bell pepper. And all of that's going to go in the steaming pot later. And we also have 2 types of plantains. So the green plantains are unripe, and those take a little bit of work to peel. So we're going to cut off both ends and kind of slice down the plantain. And then you're going to want to get your finger underneath that peel and kind of pull it off in pieces. It looks like a banana. It's related to a banana, but it's more starchy and a little harder and not as sweet as a banana. And that is going to cooking with our meat. So we're going to peel all that off, and then we're going to cut these plantains up into thirds and then in half. And then we're going to line our steamer basket with banana leaves. They smell so, so amazing, like this amazing tea. You can get them in the freezer section at your grocery store or Asian market. I got mine at the Asian market. And we're going to take about a third of the leaf, lay it down, another third of the leaf, and lay it down so that we create like a bag from banana leaf. And you want to make sure that it's kind of sealed all around. There's no parts that are just open to the steamer basket itself, because all of our vegetable and meat are going to go in there. We don't want anything getting in but steam. And then we're going to cut our cassava into quarters. So we've already kind of cut it into thirds because we had a big piece to begin with. You can cut this even smaller. I found that by having it in big chunks, it didn't quite get all the way cooked in the 4 hours, even being on the bottom. And then we're going to line the outside of our banana leaves with just touching the banana leaves with the unripe plantains. And we're going to cut our ripe plantains in half and put those on the outside to create like a little pocket for our meat. And you'll see what I mean in a second. And just around the outside of the basket so that our meat's going to go right there in the middle and not be exposed to direct heat, just some steam as it goes through. And it goes through all these vegetables and gets some really delicious aroma. So we're gonna remove our onions and our garlic, and then just put our meat like right there in the middle. Take it out of the juice. And at this point, a lot of people would rinse the meat to get rid of the salt, but you really don't need to. I found that the flavor was great without it. And we're gonna tuck it just between those plantains, and then cover it with our onions that we set aside. And these add a really, really nice flavor. I like having the onions to eat with the meat. It goes really well. And then cover that with our green bell pepper. And then cover that with our sliced tomatoes. And this is all going to steam together, and all those flavors from the vegetables are going to interact with the meat and just be really, really tasty. So into our pot, we're going to cover it with another banana leaf, and just to create like a lid, and then fold over the banana leaves from the sides to really seal up our package. And in the bottom, we're going to put 2 to 3 cups of water. You want to make sure that it's not touching the bottom of your steamer basket, and you're going to need to refill the water over the cooking period because it's going to be a long time and you don't want it to boil dry. And then cover with a lid and set to cook for 4 hours. Seems like a long time, but it's well worth it. So we've got cassava, cheese, and water, and we're going to blend those things together to make our bunuelos. I think I pronounced that right. I hope so. And they're like a fritter, a really, really tasty like cheese and cassava fritter. So we're going to put our peeled and cut cassava into our food processor, and we're going to blend it up till we get like almost like a dry ricotta cheese or dry cottage cheese. And you'll see like it'll kind of come together into like a almost a paste, a little bit of a chunky paste. And we're going to add about a third of our package of cheese to lot of cheese. We don't really need that much. So we're going to add a third. And this cheese is super delicious. It's frying cheese. And you can just take this cheese and fry it directly, and you get like these nice little crispy pillows that are delicious with tostones or deep fried plantains. So we're going to chuck up the cheese and put that in there and blend it up. And you want to make sure that it's all blending together. So let it go and then scrape it down with your ridiculously tiny scraper and let it go again. You want to make sure everything's kind of uniform. And then we're going to pour in about a quarter cup of water. You don't need much more than that. And it will bring it together into like a paste. And that paste is your dough, nothing else. Just those 3 ingredients make up your dough for your fritters. So we're going to take those and let them blend together and meld till you get like ricotta cheese. It's more like ricotta cheese now. And put it into a bowl and put that aside until we can start frying. And I like to use a little sorbet scoop so that we have kind of a uniform size and shape. But you can shape these by hand or with a spoon or whatever is your choice. It's heating up, we're going to set that aside, and we're going to start working on our slaw or cabbage salad. This goes on top of the meat and is super, super tasty together. It has like a nice refreshing note. And we're going to shred that using our mandolin, and that gives us like nice threads of cabbage. And we're going to do the same thing with our onion, but we're going to cut it first kind of with the layers of onion so that we get smaller pieces. We don't want like a big honking piece of onion in our salad. So we're just going to cut that across and then slice it. Nice thin pieces of onion. And our tomato, we're going to remove the stem and then cut it up into just small little chunks. You can do slices or chunks. They typically do chunks in all the salad that I had down there. So just cut it one way and then cut it the other way so that you get like little cubes of tomato. And make sure you use a really sharp knife or you're going to smush out all the juice and the seeds and everything. So just use a super sharp knife or a serrated knife works well. So put a little piece of our dough in there just to make sure that it's up to temperature. And it is, you can see it's immediately start bubbling. So we're going to add a couple more. I left my heat, I let it go a little bit too long, so it's a little too hot. So you'll see that the fritters are going to be a little more brown than I'd like to see them, but it didn't affect the flavor. They were still super delicious. And while those are cooking, we're going to finish up our slaw. So we're going to put the juice of one lime in there, and that adds like a nice sour note. Some pinches of salt and pepper. You want to be really generous with your salt. That's going to help to bring out some of the juices in the tomatoes and onions and cabbage and add to your dressing, so to speak. And then some of our pepper. And then we're going to add a couple splashes of black vinegar. This is a seasoned vinegar, and it just adds a really unique flavor to your dressing. So just a couple splashes, maybe 2 tablespoons, and then just mix it up together and set that aside until we're ready to eat. And it's a super refreshing, nice and crunchy salad. We're going to start on the sauce that goes on top of it. They call it honey, but down in Nicaragua they use a sugar syrup. I'm going to use some actual syrup or honey here. It is crystallized, but it's fine. Honey never goes bad. So we're going to put some cinnamon in the bottom and then our honey. And then I'm just going to microwave it for 30 seconds and that'll melt it and look like honey should. So we're going to remove kind of the first batch that we put in there and turn over the other ones and let them continue to cook for 4 to 5 minutes. And you can see we've microwaved our honey, and I'm going to add a pinch of salt just to kind of cut a little bit of the sweetness and bring out the flavor of the cinnamon and the individual flavors in the honey. I'm going to break open a fritter, and you'll see inside it's almost like bready and kind of like those like Brazilian cheese rolls, and they're just super tasty. So since we're almost done here, let's take out our meat, and we're going to remove our banana leaves that we put on top. Those are like super soft and um, have kind of broken down into like almost a mush. At least the tomatoes have. And the meat, you can see it's like shredding as I'm pulling it out. It's super tender and really flavorful and delicious. You might need more salt. You might not need any. It's up to you. I added a little sprinkle of salt over everything just to season it up. But you can see that there's just a lot of food in the steamer. So, and you could add more meat and just keep the same amount of vegetables. It's entirely up to you. But everything kind of cooked together and the flavors kind of melted, and it was just really tasty. So pulling everything out, obviously there's more vegetables in there, but my platter is full. And there you go. There's Bajo and Bunuelos. And the Bajo, we're going to serve that with the cassava and then the meat, and then put some of our slaw on top and add the plantains as well. And then the buñuelos, we're going to, I just ate those one at a time, kind of dipping them in the honey, or I like to break them in half as well and kind of put tons of honey inside and eat it, whichever way your heart desires. So I hope you enjoyed and I hope you try these recipes. Nicaraguan food is really delicious and something that I was newly introduced to. So I want to thank the team down there for introducing me to all these delicious things. And I look forward to trying it again in the future. Have a good day. Bye bye.